Wait, what is the name of this book? It's so long.
It's quite long.
Very quickly, you realize this book is like a lighthearted, easy, fun read.
I don't know him at all.
Wait, is Phil advocating for obstructing justice?
I'm just saying. I was gonna say it's wild that like murder.
As far as murders go,
today. Yeah.
This is a good one. Yeah.
Light murder.
Yeah, nice light murder for you.
Let's go beyond the first page. Let's go beyond the first page.
Welcome back, Second Pagers. This is Beyond the First Page podcast with siblings Phoebe, Phil, and Isaac. I'm Phoebe.
I'm Phil.
I'm Isaac.
And this is Club Meeting 36, Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Q. Sutanto. I just want to say, as I'm saying Club Meeting 36, that is just like pat on the back to us that we are still going strong, whether people are listening or not. We are here discussing books
we need
every
very
other
little
Monday.
encouragement.
And having fun doing it. So as always, this is a book club style podcast, and especially for this murder mystery, if you don't want Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murders ruined for you, we really recommend that you read the book first and then come on and listen to the podcast. And as always, before we get started discussing the book, we like to do a little icebreaker. And so today I wanted to ask you guys what your most anticipated read for 2025 is, whether that's a new release or just something that's on your to be read that you are really hoping to read this year. And I will go first. Mine is the 8th installment of the Cormoran Strike series. I always look forward to these books coming out. And so that is mine for 2025. Phil, over to you.
Yeah, mine is the new one for the Evan Winters. We read The Rage of Dragons. I think it's going to be called The Lord of Demons. And that's coming out. So that should be very exciting to anybody who caught that pod a couple months ago.
Yeah. Isaac, what about you?
I'm most excited to read the Conqueror series by Con Iggulden. It's his historical fiction series on Genghis Khan, which I just started the first book for right now.
Okay, good. All three good. And I also was wondering, since we are reading a murder mystery book, this is a little bonus fun fact for us, what your favorite setting is for a murder mystery. And I will kick it to Isaac because he is kind of our resident murder mystery expert, if I had to say it was any of us.
Well, I don't want to steal yours here, Phoebe, but mine is LA. When I visited Phoebe and Jaden, I actually went on a Harry Bosch murder mystery tour that I invented myself. All the places where he either...
Comment below for details.
Yeah, hit me up on social media if you'd like the tour guide. But it encompasses both the show and the books. A lot of places where he finds dead people, places where he goes to relax. It was very fun. It took the whole day.
Yeah, it was a really great time, for sure. Yeah, LA is a great city for a murder mystery. Phil, over to you.
Yeah, for sure. Sucker for like English countryside. Anthony Horowitz, just all their stupid little words that are just sprinkled throughout the mystery. They're very good.
They're stupid little words.
And it's just like, it's just stuff you would never catch unless you were like reading a murder mystery. Just like when's the last time like a monobrow comes up in a word? Like that's what they call a unibrow. That's so funny.
Well, mine's in the same vein as yours, Phil. I love a London set murder mystery, hence my most anticipated book being the Cormoran Strike series, which is based out of London. I love a good London murder mystery. So cool. Okay, great. We are warmed up, ready to go. Let's do this book in 15 seconds with Isaac, our friend Isaac.
All right. So this book is about Vera. She's a older woman that lives in Chinatown in San Francisco, and she runs a pretty unsuccessful tea shop there. And she discovers a dead man whose name we learn is Marshall in her tea shop one morning. And she reports it, but she doesn't think the police are really taking this case seriously. So she takes it upon herself to start doing some investigation. She also has stolen a key piece of evidence. So that is a lot of the reason she
He's
thinks
obstructing justice.
she thinks the police are not doing well, but they also don't have all the facts. So the jury's out on if they are able to do a good job without that. She writes the obituary of the dead man and talks about her shop to see if she's under the assumption that the killers will always return to the scene of the crime. And 4 people show up,
Right.
and she weasels her way into these 4 people's lives, and they all become this like gang that she is slowly working through to discover which one of them killed Marshall. And
Right.
yeah, she eventually gets to the end and finds the real killer, and it turns out to be none of those people.
Yeah, and that was good, Isaac. I felt like I was really engaged with you there. Like I was in it I was like in it for the retelling. That was good. Yeah, so like pretty simple plot line with a good little twist at the end. It ends up being Marshall's own dad. Spoiler alert. So
Who we didn't know was Marshall's dad.
Yeah.
the whole time, right? He was a friend of Vera's, but she knew him through the tea shop, not because of Marshall. So, anyways, yeah, I think that to start off, I really wanted to talk. There was something blaring to me when reading this book right off the gate, and you even mentioned it in your summary, Isaac. You had said she was an older woman, and I think the book portrays her to be this very elderly woman, but she's only 60. And so I found that interesting with her character, and it kind of rubbed me from the start the wrong way. But I'm wondering for you two if that stuck out, but also how much leniency you're willing to take with characters or a plot, and does that change depending on the genre of the book? So, this book was pretty lighthearted. Does that change how hard you're being on the realism of the characters?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely pretty glaring when it was just like she's 60, but it didn't really mention it enough where I was just like, this is unreal. Like, I just kept thinking this is unrealistic the entire time. Like, in my head, I just sort of disregarded that fact and thought she was 80 or something. Like, it was very easy for me to just like not do
Move
that.
on. Yeah.
But I think that it's important.
I
Sorry.
wanted to push back on you, Phil, because I think that and I'm curious, Isaac, to hear what you think. She really was given a lot of leniency in her behavior because she was quote unquote an old woman. Whereas I think that I have a lot more leniency for maybe like an 85-year-old woman not always following the correct social constructs versus a 60-year-old. She was getting away with a lot of stuff.
So I think
in
that
my
was
opinion.
actually
like
more
obstruction
of
of justice.
Yeah, I think that was more of a cultural thing, though. I do think that the elderly in like Chinese, like it doesn't really matter how old the elderly are. That's a much more revered, and all of the characters had some type
Like they
of
respect their elder, like Asian
connection to
culture,
Asian
especially.
culture. Yeah, and so I do think that was actually more born from that rather than like elderly. Because I do think you're right, especially in white culture, it's like not really a thing, even for super old people. Anyway, it's almost more like you infantilize old people rather than respect them. So,
yeah, I think that
Interesting.
I agree with Phoebe. I noticed that right away, and it didn't irk me for a couple reasons. The first being, very quickly you realize this book is like a lighthearted, easy, fun read. So
Right.
I don't discount it. And this book actually did win several awards. It won the Edgar Award for Best Paperback Original and the Audie Award for Mystery. And was the Libby Award for Mystery, the Libby apps, which we really enjoy reading. So pretty well accredited, but there are segments of, good books. And this falls into that cozy, fun beach read area that is necessary for anybody who is consuming books, especially at the rate at which we are.
Right.
It is totally necessary. And I think it's also necessary for the opposite end of the spectrum of people who are like, I need a book that is going to keep me engaged because reading is not really my thing. Again, this kind of genre of book, not genre of mystery, but genre of the easy, cozy read, is completely necessary. So at the end of the day, maybe this sounds a little bit harsh, but I don't think it really matters that much.
Yeah.
The character was funny enough in her own right. I think it didn't matter for slightly different reasons. What Phil said, there could be, yes, she could be writing through cultural stuff, but I just don't think it mattered.
Right.
I think she was also getting away with stuff because we were really only ever hearing her point of view and the other characters who, as the reader, you were all led to believe were suspects in this murder. And all had their own incentives to, they thought, allow her to continue to obstruct justice. I think they all would have been completely fine if they would have just been like, oh, dang, I just had an altercation with this guy, but I was here last night and this is what we fought over and he like ripped me off. And maybe you would have been under scrutiny a little bit from Officer Gray, and then she would have been able to do her job and very quickly solve this,
Yeah.
But that doesn't make a good, cozy mystery. So
Right.
Here we are.
Well, and in the same vein, I think to your point, Isaac, like there you have a lot of leniency for a character in a cozy read like this, and you also, I think, have a lot of leniency for the plot. Where we've talked about before when we read Tana French's The Hunter, is it believable that people are taking the law into their own hands and getting away with it? That's like a kind of thing. And where in Tana French's, you really want that to be a very realistic thing because of the tone of the story, versus here you're like, it's completely believable that Vera would get away with, obstructing justice. And I think Ricky would get away with, creating this malware that he's not actually going to get in trouble over. There's a lot more leniency for the plot, I think, too. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the least leniency is definitely for nonfiction slash memoir. Like when that is out of touch, I'm just thinking Naomi Klein being out of touch the entire time, and I was not lenient at all towards
When you're
that.
simply not saying correct things.
Yeah,
As if they're facts.
for sure, not that one. I think you're right, Phoebe, with serious mysteries, it's true. But I do think that with other genres, it's actually surprising. I think fantasy actually, in some sense, has to be very relatable as well, because I think that there was a lot of things that just weren't really tied up very neatly in this, and it's fine because it's a cozy. But the world building needs to be done very well, especially if you
For a
write a
fantasy.
fantasy. By the seventh book, if you don't do it well in the first book, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really interesting aspect. But I also think that you have a little bit more leniency in making the characters and stuff, but it does have to be consistent. I guess consistency is key. And that's maybe why this one didn't rub me as bad, because she
Okay.
was consistently like this the entire time. Like, yes, she was 60 bad, but like she was herself the entire time, and
Yeah.
everyone treated her like that the entire time.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that would like this, we wouldn't even be talking about this if she had just wrote and she was 78.
Right.
Yeah.
If she hadn't said she was just past 60 or whatever,
60.
if she introduces her age, if she just said she was 78 to 84, it would have been like, yeah, this makes complete sense.
But what about the other characters too? I mean, I am agreeing with you guys. I'm just kind of pushing back because I think I agree with you, Isaac. But for me, that was important, and it could have elevated the story just a little bit more had the accuracy of the age, like that, for some reason really bugged me. I was like, this is not realistic all of a sudden, when besides, of course, the obstruction of justice, I feel like it could have been more. But I guess to your point, Phil, the consistency of the characters across the board was pretty on point.
Yeah, I think I want to push back a little bit on Isaac's thing too, because I do think, taking a step back, okay, you definitely could have just been clear about this and stuff. But I also think that the relationship with law enforcement is always, I don't know. It's very tough. And especially if at the beginning you freak out, you then go back and say, I lied to you the first time. Like once you sort of dug a hole that you're like, I don't know him at all,
Wait, is Philip advocating for obstructing justice?
I'm just saying it's actually like I think it is a little bit harder than maybe it seems. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
I guess I used to not have a lot of pity for people who just didn't come very straightforward and I do this, but now I do think like in high pressure situations, some people
You
just freak
panic.
out, and then it's very hard to be like, this isn't a big deal. And I do think that especially with the artist, where her sort of entire identity was like trying to be
Sana.
an individual, Sana, being an individual, and like so much pressure from her family and her mom. And then it was just like she made this really, really dumb mistake. And yeah, it sort of makes sense that she would lean into hiding that. So I don't know. I didn't think the characters were that unrealistic, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think any of them were. Yeah, it's also easy to, fortunately, and hopefully I never have this, gray area of like, should I hide something from the police or not? But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know because I've never been in that situation before. But they never even
But Vera was doing it on purpose.
Yeah, Vera, she never thought and there was
she
no
was like, I'm right.
She never gave
there
them
was
a
no
chance.
idea of ever doing that. But the other characters never said in their own inner dialogue that we heard, should I just come forward and clear my name? I'm not a suspect right now, but just say this old woman is looking into this more. I came here. This is what I know to go find.
Right.
I know this guy because he ripped me off.
Yeah.
But really only Ricky, he was the only one that did anything
Bad stuff.
bad to then maybe have some consequences for doing that. All the other ones were also victims. They had just had altercations with him.
Motive.
They had a motive, but so
that's what's sort of scary too. I mean, how many times do you like? Oh, we have no suspects. We have no suspects. Like, you're the one, he fleeced you for $300,000 and we don't really know what happened here. So
I think also, if you're getting suspected of a crime, you're likely shady. Sometimes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That you're the problem. That's why no one would ever come forward, because
Ricky was the only shady one.
Yeah,
that's
everyone
true.
else was
and
good.
Also
So
add in the immigration status, like add in people's biases against people that look different than them.
I do think it's not unrealistic to just not want to be involved at all, rather than
but they did become
or
involved.
not trust the police. Right.
They did, but
came to the murder scene.
They did, yeah. But also, though, the police didn't in this one. Like, I think in the Thursday Murder Club, the police are trying to do their work. In this one, the police were really not trying to do anything.
Well, so I was going to say that I think there's a sequel to this. I think next book there needs to be a bigger emphasis on the police. Like maybe do a couple chapters point of view from the police perspective. I think there was like maybe one or two in this one, but a more of a police presence. I think that makes the story more believable too. So you're not just getting the old woman's point of view from things.
Yeah.
But
I mean, not to defend the man, but like there wasn't a lot to go on.
Right. They had to have been doing something. Yeah.
Yeah. She faked her own break-in and then never reported it. So like they were like, why are the police looking at it? Well, how are they supposed to know?
True.
But
I don't know if you've ever reported a police incident. It is quite underwhelming.
Yeah,
it is.
They can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like it's
I know.
I do
but
sympathize
it's like they don't
with
even.
Vera. It's like, what are they going to do?
Yeah,
right.
it is. Yeah.
Well, so you kind of alluded to it already, Isaac, but I'm curious, like, who are you recommending this book to? Because, like you said, I honestly feel like you pretty much summarized the whole, like, who I would recommend it to. It's kind of everybody. It's either people who are trying to get into reading or people who read a lot and maybe need like a refresher. Like, what was this for you guys?
Yeah. I surprisingly like this book quite a bit. I thought
I was
it
surprised to
was
see your rating.
yeah.
Spoiler.
I
on
thought
the
it was
ratings.
like very funny in the very beginning of the book. She's texting her son, and I wish I wrote it down, but he's like, don't do this or whatever. Your uncle Lin died, and he did that, and the son's like, Uncle Lin got hit by a bus, Mom. Died from not doing this like Chinese thing. And that was throughout the entire book. In one of her journal entries, she is writing about one of the characters being like, oh, they're a horrible liar. I should take them to play my Chinese domino game. That's an easy win for me. And this is her evidence book. And she's writing this down in it.
This side note.
Yeah. So I was chuckling like mostly throughout the book.
Right.
I don't know if I'd
Yeah.
recommend this to an avid reader. I don't think I would want this book recommended to me, but then now that I've read it, I like really enjoyed it. But I think I would have read, like, if we weren't reading for the book club, I would have read the back of it or like read about it. I'd be like, probably not going to read this one. But I'm glad I did. So I would I would recommend this more to people who either I know they are into this kind of thing, that maybe are into the thriller genre a little bit, and that is filled with crap. And this one, I would say, like, read this one. This is a good book in this genre.
Right.
Or someone who's like, I need an ease into reading.
Again. Yeah.
And this would be a good one for them, depending on their personality. But yeah, I did think there was some good, clever, funny parts. And then San Francisco is one of my favorite cities. I've been there 5 times. I go to Chinatown every single time because Chinatown is so cool. There really wasn't that much Chinatown stuff in it, but just the idea of her tea shop was cool, and all her cooking was, I thought, really well written. I liked that aspect of the book a lot too.
Yeah, I think I would have also liked to see more of the city through her eyes. I think that would have been very cool. Maybe in the next book.
Yeah, it seemed like she was like trying to attempt to do that sometimes, like in when Michael Connelly writes the Harry Bosch, he like references a lot of street names and landmarks, and it's not as like it's just like in passing, as if you are in there and know the city. And she does that a couple times with some of the characters, but I think she could have leaned into it more and exposed like a lot of culture without taking away anything.
Overtly doing anything. Yeah. Phil, who would you recommend it to?
Yeah, I think same sort of deal. I would recommend it to someone like Aunt Julie, who just reads everything
A lot.
and all the time.
Shout out Julie Phillips.
Yeah, I think I would probably not recommend. Like, I read so many books too that I have a go-to. These are the books that you should read if you want to get into reading. Like, these are the books that you read if you read one book a year. I'm not sure if this makes any of those lists, but I do think, especially for people who maybe if they're going on vacation and I want to read on this vacation, perfect.
This is the book. Yeah. I think for me, it's a kind of a break in between maybe 2 pretty intense fantasy series or a fiction that delves into a lot of different darker topics. And I think, it's hard out there. It's nice to have a reprieve from something. So if people are just looking for like, I don't want anything dark. This is a light. I mean, even though he kills his son.
I was gonna say, it's wild that like murder,
as far as murders go
today. Yeah.
This is a good one. Yeah.
Light murder.
Yeah, nice light murder for you.
About death, but you won't think about death too much.
That's the tagline. Yeah, I liked what you said too, Isaac. I think one of the very unique parts about this, because Isaac, you haven't read Thursday Murder Club, but this to me was a very Thursday Murder Club-esque. So I think while you were very pleasantly surprised by the humor in it, I was kind of anticipating that going in. But I think something that this really brought to the table was the cultural aspect, which I think that the author was trying to go for as well. And the like Asian American culture specifically, obviously. And I really enjoyed hearing about all the food that she made everybody as well. That was my big cultural takeaway from this book. And I wanted to hear what else you guys, Isaac, you kind of already shared yours, but Phil, any other cultural?
I have one more.
Go for it.
Not necessarily cultural, but just or not Asian cultural, but I think maybe like American culture, a little bit of a downer perhaps. But she was written, I thought it was interesting. And I don't know if I was just inventing this or not, but when Vera was speaking English, it was, kind of like broken English. And
Broken.
there were words she would mispronounce and stuff. And when she spoke to Alex, they were speaking Mandarin. Obviously, we were reading it in English, but she was supposed to be speaking Mandarin, and she was coherent. It didn't sound childish, kind of.
Right.
And I think that the police and I think she was speaking English mostly to the other suspects as well. They kind of she was like kind of this mascot a little bit. She was viewed as lesser than or not as intelligent just because of the way she had to communicate.
Right.
And there's a message there, I think, for us that I know I am very guilty of doing this. But this and she is kind of like, I'm an elder, like I should be being shown this respect, but she's this totem of, whatever.
Incompetence,
Yeah.
perhaps.
So she was viewed as different and lesser and not as intelligent because of how she was communicating. And I think that was evident from how the police handled the case, how the people gathered her because they felt like they had to care for her a little bit too, which turned out to be nice, but could have stemmed from that as well. So
pretty competent on her own.
Yeah. I mean, she moved from China, started a business. Yes, it's not doing well anymore, but I mean, she's still here. So, yeah, I think that was like an interesting part of it and something that it should be brought up at least because I didn't want to feel like I was bashing. I think there was stuff in this book that was not just nonchalant. There was still good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great point, Isaac. And that's not something I thought about. And so I'm happy I talked about it with you. Yeah, good point. Phil, anything that you had thought of?
Yeah, mine is much less serious. I really liked all the teas. I thought that her sort of gathering
You're
all
a
the
big tea
tea.
guy.
I want to be a big tea guy is the thing.
I
But
want to be a tea
want
guy now
Vera
too.
to tell me. I want Vera to
Vera
tell me all
inspired
these
us.
like different like teas to drink and I do think that like it is different than coffee in the sense that I feel like coffee's so strong that it's like you got to have a really subtle tongue, but tea is so diverse and you can have so many different types of teas and brewing methods. I worked with a girl that had her like exact microwave to a minute 42 and then steeped it for 2 minutes and then took it out immediately, like had the exact ritual. And I think that that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Considering we grew up with a mother who puts coffee in the microwave and then takes it to her, which is a little
and
less
hates
serious.
tea also.
Yeah, and hates it. So I like that aspect a lot.
Yeah. No, really good. Both things I didn't think too much about. I also love tea. I really enjoyed talking about this with you guys. I think there was lighthearted nuggets and then Isaac, as you pointed out, some deeper underlying things you could take away from this book. So I'm happy that we read it and I'm glad you guys seem to enjoy it. I give it a 3. I think because I have read a few other books similar to this, like a lighthearted mystery, I've found better. So it's kind of a comparison, but enjoyed it overall. So it was a 3 for me. Phil, what about you?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked it better than the Thursday Murder Club. So I actually would give it a 4, I think.
Nice. Isaac, what about you?
Yeah, this is the best like in that cozy genre I've read. I don't really like those kind of books, but this was a 4 for me as well.
Good. Well received by the pod. I like that. Yeah. That's positive. I was thinking, you guys, such a strong book list this year. Aren't you feeling that from us? Like, well, but we came off of Jane Eyre, but so perhaps perhaps not for Isaac. But I think we're reading a lot more like 4s, 5s than we were last year. So good on us, I guess. Sure. Hopefully our listeners think the same. I think if you're looking for a book like Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, you should read The Mother-Daughter Murder Club. Phil, what would your
Nice. Yeah,
recommendation
mine
be?
is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. It's actually the same guy that wrote Alex Rider, but he writes a really good murder mysteries. It's a murder mystery book within a murder mystery book, so the author gets killed. So he writes a book that leads to a clue of his death, but his
Whoa.
book is so it's a little Russian nesting doll action there.
Love that. That sounds really good. To check that out. Isaac, what about you?
Mine was Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. I would not call this a cozy. As the title says, it's dark for sure, but more in the thriller genre. Again, not a huge fan of these kind of books, but this one kept me pretty entertained. So,
But you like a murder mystery, Isaac.
yeah, but
You're looking for like a police.
yeah, I'm not into like the murder thriller genre.
Yeah.
I want the
What it-
murder mystery.
Okay. What about like a girl with the dragon tattoo?
I've never read that.
Oh,
That's
a really good. That's a
completely-
thriller, Phil, though.
yeah, no, Isaac would love that. That's not
Yeah.
no, he's talking about like
The whodunit
Frida
type of
McFadden,
thing.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something out there for everybody. Well, this was a great discussion. And as always, before we go, we just want to talk about what we are reading next time on the podcast. This is another book that I am so excited to read. Both Phil and Isaac have already read it, but it is Trust by Hernan Diaz. It won the 2023 Pulitzer Prize. Isaac, would you tell us a little bit about Trust before we go?
Yes, it is a postmodern novel exploring the rise and fall of a wealthy Wall Street financier, Andrew Bevel, and his wife Mildred, told through the fictional documents, including a novel within a novel, an autobiography, a memoir, and a diary. The novel delves into the themes of wealth, power, gender, and the nature of truth, examining how narratives can be manipulated to shape public perception. This book is awesome. Very excited to talk about it. I didn't realize till after I'd finished that it was not a true story. That's how well written it is.
That's how well written it was. Cool. Well, I'll go in knowing that, and I'm very excited to read it. And as always, this is our bi-weekly reminder to you to call someone that you love, tell them that you love them, tell them about a good book that you have recently read. Maybe it's Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. And until we talk again, stay classy, second pagers. We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.